A lot of us confuse the things that we want with the things that we need. If our basic needs as humans are met, such as bills paid, food in the fridge, clean water, and clothes on our backs, we are fine to do whatever we want with excess money. But what about the people who don't have anything extra to spare? Or even worse, the people who barely have anything to begin with and struggle to have those basic needs filled? Poverty is defined as a lack of financial resources or being extremely poor. Unfortunately, that is experienced in many different countries. I'd like to discuss Africa in particular. Poverty in Africa is complex due to multiple issues, including but not limited to unemployment, education, and access to medical care. I'd like to make note that not all of Africa lives in poverty. There are some areas in Kenya, South Africa, as well as other beautiful countries where this is not as big of an issue. According to statistics from the World Bank, the National Bureau of Statistics recently released the 2019 Poverty and Inequality in Nigeria report, which highlights about 40% of the population total, or almost 83 million people, live below the country's poverty line of 137,043 naira, or $381.75 per year, American dollars. Can you imagine not being able to afford $381.75 per year? Not only to support yourself, but also a lot of the time a family with multiple children. Enoch Atkins, a researcher, writes, Africa's high fertility rates mean that the economic growth rates translate into smaller per capita income increases. While the extreme poverty rate will likely fall, the number of poor people will rise due to Africa's high population growth rate. I also want to make note that the difference between poor and indigenous. There are a lot of tribes that have traditional practices they follow and should not be confused with being deprived. Something that adds into poverty in Africa is lack of economic stability. A bad economy and a lack of jobs are a sure way to keep people poor. Not to mention, the people who are lucky enough to have a job aren't receiving more than about $5.50 per day. Women on average are known to get paid less compared to men, as stated in a Wikipedia article. As a working woman myself, I could not imagine having to make ends meet to provide for my family off of less than $5.50 per day. This is not the lifestyle for just one family though. There are entire communities that are dealing with this. Another matter would be education. A lack of higher education means less people being able to take up important professions, such as doctors, engineers, and teachers, to keep the cycle going. Even for the kids, some children must walk miles just to attend class from where they live. Walking for an hour or more just to get to school can be tiresome, especially on hot days. The distance can also take away time that could be spent learning. Think about it. Say school starts at 7 a.m. and a child has a 2-hour distance to travel. They must either wake up around 4 or 5 a.m. in order to be on time or risk being late. Outreach International briefly mentions children in impoverished families must often contribute to the necessary work of subsistence living, such as fetching water from a distant source and irrigating crops by hand. Another reason based off of circumstances as to why kids may not have the time to attend school. Lastly, I would like to touch on access to medical care. Not being in your best physical state can absolutely add to the issue as well. Imagine having an injury or illness that can be easily treated, but there aren't things like urgent care or doctors. These issues not only result in a lower day-to-day quality of life, but also have wider ranging implications for sifting economy growth and development. This is especially true for communities in rural and remote areas. Outreach International also brings up health problems can lead to reduced productivity and increased healthcare expenses. These factors perpetuate an unending cycle of chronic poverty. When people are too ill or injured to work or to attend school, they cannot make strides toward prosperity. Things were even worse following COVID. In conclusion, until the African government changes their efforts on applying the right policies, it will be a long road to bring poverty to an end. In the meantime, there are plenty of ways you can help until the goal is achieved. You can always donate to assist organizations with providing resources to countries that are at poverty level. And aside from donating, you can also realize the small things that we may take for granted that will be a blessing to someone less fortunate.